doping program, and without getting into the particulars, it's from my perspective, it's a step forward. But the UCI has often gone to the lengths of trying to be transparent with anti-doping, and the way they've done it is by throwing the riders to the wolves. The riders don't have a union; the riders have no voice, and they claim to have this. They have an ethical charter. They claim to hold themselves to a high ethical standard. But in their actions, they don't. And what we're asking for, other than parity in the system, is for the sport's governing bodies to hold themselves to the same ethical standard to which they're holding the athletes. And if this works, great. It's something that perhaps should have been done a long time ago. But there's still a lot of problems with the system. There's still a lot of problems with the process. And again, it's still the UCI. It's still punitive. It's still out to catch. We want to see prevention, we want to see education, we want to see research.
Hi, Floyd. Americans have never been really, embraced in Europe for cycling, and Greg did a lot to get his foot in the door, but obviously he was treated very badly. And obviously you were the leader of your team, so your team was around you, but did you find any animosity from the other teams or any of the other riders that you're an American, after Lance completely dominated, then you come along? Did you find any problems with that people were like, and clearly with this drug thing, it just seems like the French can't let it go, that we come in and we're, I don't want to say better, but we work harder at it.
No, look, I spent quite a few years racing in Europe, mostly on the American team with Lance, and then following that with the Phonak team, which was a Swiss team, but had a whole variety of nationalities on it, as did the Postal Service team. And I didn't have any experience with anybody from any other country, which led me to believe that there was some kind of bias there, not with the riders, nor with anyone involved in cycling. And over and above that, I had wonderful experiences in France with the French people. There's plenty of Americans I have had problems with.
People there are great. It's just more of the governing bodies seem like they're.
Well, I have no way of knowing if there's an actual bias there. From what I've seen, from what Arnie's explained to me and the other experts that we have, it appears that to be total incompetence. And if it's a setup, it's even more incompetent than if it's just incompetence. So if I really might go with that.
I could say that with the parallel investigation in France, that we've received more discovery, more information from the AFLD a lot more willingly than we ever did from USADA.
Hi, Floyd. Thank you for the beer. First of all, it's excellent. It's really big. We've got a cooler back here below.
It is outstanding.
I'm afraid of the testing procedure, and I'm afraid of the courts, but I trust you, and I want to thank you for giving us all something to be so proud of last summer. I'd love to go home and tell my family that you looked at all of us and said, I didn't cheat, and that would be enough for me, and I wouldn't care what anyone else said.
I didn't cheat, and I've said that from the beginning, and I think it's my responsibility at this point, in the position I'm in, to explain it in more detail than that. But if that were good enough for the panel of arbitrators, that would be wonderful.
And I'm going to take the risk of going a different direction, a more personal direction. I can only imagine the immediate events following your victory in the Tour, the emotion that you went through from an exuberant high that you probably never experienced to an unbelievable low in facing what you were facing or what you were accused with. Can you kind of take us through those first couple of days and what it was like for you and what you really did to dig deep to when you're here today to really fight this fight?
Well, directly after the tour, I went to Holland to do some criteriums, often riders do those for a few days following the Tour de France. And so I was notified on a Wednesday morning, and I left Holland and went back to Paris to meet some of the team lawyers and the management from the team to try to figure out a plan to deal with it. And during that time, it was about 24 hours probably before the team made some kind of announcement. They had been monitoring what the press was saying, and as soon as we learned that the press knew what was going to happen, they were basically forced to make a statement. And after which, I stayed for maybe another 12 hours, so a day and a half in Paris, and then I flew out of Charles de Gaulle to go to Spain just for a day, and then I flew home. I think the most humiliating part for me was flying out of Paris in the airport the next day, the day that I was the cover of every newspaper, basically explaining how I destroyed their whole Tour de France. And I've been through some humiliating things, but that was one of the worst. After that, when I was back home, things got a little bit easier, just because I was at home and I had people around me, and I found out quickly who my real friends were. And I can say I'm fortunate to have some of the friends that I have, Arnie here, and other people around me. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here right now, and I wouldn't know half the things that I know now. I don't have the ability to learn all of this nearly as quickly as I do with the many people around me are helping. So yeah, personally, it was one of the worst or the hardest things I've ever been through. But anyway, you take what you get and you make the best of it.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Colonisi, and I want to thank you just for a wonderfully exciting race last year. I was actually in France, and I attended 3 stages of the tour, saw you go up the Col du Wilmette. And I have 2 questions. One, I'm just kind of curious if, for the layperson anyway, if you can explain why you think you did bonk on stage 16. And then my other comment is, since I do have French friends, and we discussed this a lot, there seems to be a belief among a lot of French people that a lot of the riders are doping. And we've talked about how you hope to work on prevention rather than this catch approach. How do you propose preventing this, preventing athletes from doping, especially in the tour?
Well, I don't know if that opinion or feeling is exclusive to French people at this point. The way sport has dealt with it in the public nature of things, it's become a subject of, well, not just in cycling, in sports in general, it's a cultural subject right now. Unfortunately, I am not a doping expert, and I cannot tell you how you fix the problem. But clearly, there's a better way than the way it's been being dealt with now. I don't know even what the extent of the problem is, but what needs to happen is there needs to be a way of dealing with it that the punishment comes after the conviction. That's my opinion. That's fine. I'm sorry, I missed the first part. Look, I've done the tour 5 times now, and every one of them I've had a bad day here and there, and they often don't come on the hardest mountain stage. Normally there's 5 or 6 mountain stages. There's 14 other stages, and out of those, even the winner of every tour, even Lance, has bad days in every tour, and most of the time the odds are they don't happen on a mountain stage, but when they do, it becomes quite a bit more obvious than if it's on a flat stage. So I didn't eat enough in the beginning, and at the end you pay for it. You can't make up for it during the race. Once the race is over, you can eat it and you feel fine, but if you make that mistake and then you have to climb a mountain, it becomes obvious.
There's the second part of your question that Floyd answered first. On our website, floydfairnessfund.org, there's a document written by Dr. Baker called Improving Fairness, which has 12 to 15 really great points as to how the science can aspire to best practice standards. There are also some interesting programs going on right now within teams. Here in the States, Slipstream is doing one with a program called Agency for Cycling Ethics. CSC is doing one, T-Mobile. Those are all interesting models. There are a lot of models out there, and we hope that we can get a group of like-minded individuals together and try to have something that addresses a lot of these problems.
Great. Hi, Floyd. I'm Max McGee. I'm the school superintendent here at Wilmette, and